Hey guys, it's Mr. Eisens here. We're going to be talking about cell organelles today, and we have a ton of information. So let's get through this as quickly as we can. Let's make sure if I'm going too fast, slow me down, pause the video, and if I'm going too slow, don't be afraid to speed me up. Okay, so cell organelles. What is an organelle? An organelle is similar to an organ inside our bodies. Organs inside our bodies would be like our heart, our brain, our lungs. Okay, they do specific job to keep us alive. Okay, and help us function. Organelles are like the organs of cells. They're just on a smaller scale. It's a little bit different, and they do different things. But at the individual cell level, they are going to do different things. All right, let's keep going. So we have different cell types. We have prokaryotes, and we have our eukaryotes. Okay, prokaryotes are really, really small. This is a bacteria cell. And then we have our our animal cell right here and our plant cell over here. You can see it's a plant cell because of the chloroplast, because of the large water vacuole in the middle, and because of the cell wall around it. The animal cell does not have any of those things. Okay, so animal, plant cell. Let's keep on going just to show you the size of our bacteria cell. Prokaryotes are very, very small, whereas eukaryotes are super large and super complex. They have all kinds of different organelles, and they have membrane-bound organelles, which just means that each organelle or each organ of the cell has its own area in which it operates. Okay, why study cells? Well, cells make us up. We are all made up of cells, trillions of cells. And so we want to, if we understand at the smallest level what's going on, we can better take care of ourselves by taking care of ourselves, okay? So cells, groups of cells make tissues. Groups of tissues make organs. Groups of organs, remember organs like a heart or lungs, okay? Groups of organs come together to make organ systems. And then groups of organ systems make up the organism. That's us, okay? And so this is kind of the process of organization of all these different cells. All right. What jobs do cells have? Well, they got quite a few jobs, as you can see. We've just talked about energy transformation this week, and how we're going to breathe in oxygen, breathe out CO2 as we undergo cellular respiration. All right. There's a little bit more to that equation, but the whole point of the idea is to get ATP. Okay. We need energy so that we can actually operate and move around in this world and do things. In order to do that, we're going to transform energy from the food we eat, and then we're going to need oxygen present so that we can actually get that energy. All right? So cells are super busy. Let's keep on going. So the three main jobs of cells, okay? Three main jobs. They make energy, okay? They make proteins, and they make more cells. All right? Those are the three jobs that cells are going to do. They're going to make ATP. They're going to make proteins. Proteins are literally everything that does something in your body is a protein. Okay, proteins basically operate your body. So you need a bunch of them, and cells make all the proteins that you're going to need. All right, and then they make more cells because they got to do more of that. All right, so organelles, let's break them down. Like we said, they're like mini organs inside the cell. They're going to help the cell operate and survive. All right, and they each have specific jobs. Okay, we're going to be talking about structure and function quite a bit as we go here. All right, so DNA. All right, genetic information passed on from cell to cell in reproduction. This is going to tell our body everything it needs to do. All of our cells have the same DNA, and the DNA is going to tell our cells what to build, what to become, and basically the blueprint for how to build you, the individual. All right, so everyone's got their own DNA. That DNA is unique to yourself. So I have my very own DNA. There's no one else that has the DNA like me because I am unaware. I do not have a identical twin. Okay, there are people that have similar DNA to me, both my brother and my sister, but it's not exactly the same. Okay, because we are different. Okay, so nucleus. We're going to start with the nucleus. The nucleus, let me just move my picture here. Okay, the nucleus is going to store that genetic information and protect it. Okay, so the function of the nucleus is to protect DNA, okay, and be the control center of the cell. Okay, some people like to refer to it as the brain. It doesn't necessarily make decisions, but it allows our body to protect that DNA and then use that DNA when we need it to build proteins. Okay, now structure. What does it look like? Well, it has its own membrane. We call it the nuclear membrane, and it protects the nucleus because we don't want to let things in because the DNA is so important. So we keep it protected. All right. Next, cell membrane. Okay, so cell membrane is really, really interesting because it is going to be the outside of the cell. Okay, the very outside of the cell that's going to allow things to come in and allow things to go out. It's kind of a gatekeeper. All right, so it separates the cell from the outside. It controls what enters and leaves the cell. It does this by recognizing certain things that are outside of the cell. And so we have all these different proteins that are going to recognize, hey, what's going on outside the cell? Do we want this thing to come inside? Is it going to help us? Is it some nutrients? Is it some food? Or is it something that we don't want? Is it something that is dangerous to the cell and we're going to keep that outside? Okay, and so the structure is going to actually be this phosphate biphospholipid layer. All right, and so we have our phosphate head and the lipid tail. So to not go into too much detail to confuse you, but basically these phosphate heads are going to prevent certain things from entering the body, all right, or entering the cell, excuse me, and keep us safe by doing that. All right, then there's going to be a bunch of proteins in here, which are going to allow certain things to enter the cell more easily. You can kind of think of it as a larger opening to fit bigger things into the cell. Really, really small things that can fit in between the phosphate heads can get in, but you're going to need a protein in order to get anything larger. Okay, so let's keep on going. So cytoplasm is going to be the jelly-like substance in the cell that keeps everything in place. Okay, you can still move around in the cell, but everything stays in place for the most part. All right, so thick jelly-like substance supports the shape of the cell. Location of cellular respiration in prokaryotes along with cell membrane. Okay, so the cytoplasm is where some cellular respiration is going to take place for prokaryotes, but for us, we're going to have a mitochondria, which is going to allow us to have much more energy, and we need that energy because eukaryotes are much bigger. Okay, so cell wall, this is only found in plants. Okay, plants are really rigid. Sometimes if you snap the stem of a plant or like celery, when you snap it, okay, you can hear it like crack and snap apart. That's because of the cell wall. Okay, the cell wall is breaking, and then sometimes some water comes out. That's because cells or plant cells also have that water vacuole where they store water. Okay, so it's made of cellulose. Fungi also have this. It's made of chitin, and then bacteria have a peptoglycan cell wall. Okay, its cell wall is mainly made just to protect the cell, keep things that it wants to keep inside, and then also give it a rigid structure so that our plants can actually stand up straight. Okay, especially when we actually have water in the cell. All right. So as far as vacuoles go, the biggest thing you want to know about vacuoles is they're just little containers, basically. They're for storage. And so we're able to transport and carry things around because of these vacuoles and vesicles. Okay. And so vacuoles are mainly going to be for storing something, whereas a vesicle is going to transport it somewhere else. Okay. The structure, it's just a membrane sac. So we're going to make a little circle, as you can see here, to trap whatever food particle or thing that we want to, and then we're going to get it to the spot that it needs to be. Okay. Certain vacuoles and vesicles will carry some digestive enzymes so that we can break things down so that we have energy. All right. Large water vacuole. This is going to be the storage for water inside our plants. Okay. You can see that we have these plants here. When it's normal, our cell is completely fine. It's not bulging. It's nice, and the forces are balanced. Okay, the forces are balanced. It's not putting too much pressure on the outside of the cell, and the plant's going to be straight up and down. All right. Whereas when our plant cell doesn't have enough water, it's dehydrated. It's going to shrink, and that's when plants are going to wilt. Okay, they're going to wilt to the side. They don't look healthy. They need water in order to survive. Okay, and that's kind of the stimulus and response in which there's not enough water, the plant needs more water. Okay, so they're either going to be standing straight up because they have a normal amount or they have too much. Now, if they have too much water, it's going to kind of contort the plant just a little bit, and it might wilt the other way. Okay, because there's so much water in the plant that it's going to be kind of twisted looking. All right, you can overwater plants. Okay, it doesn't happen very often, but it's possible. All right, so remember, we want to have balanced forces on our plant cell, and then we don't want, so here we have too much force on the cell wall, making it bend, okay, whereas in here we don't have enough force to hold the plant up straight and to put pressure on the cell wall. Okay, so this vacuole is putting pressure on our cell wall, okay, whereas our cell wall is holding it in. All right, so it's putting pressure back onto it. Whereas here we have so much pressure that it's bending our cell wall. Here we don't have enough, so the cell wall can't even hold up and it's going to wilt. We call this process turgor pressure. Okay, turgor pressure. So if you ever see this word, we're referring to the pressure, the water pressure inside the plant that holds the plant up. All right. All right, food and water storage. That's just going to be regular vacuoles. I know plants are going to have the large water vacuole, but animals can have these food vacuoles where they're going to extract some energy. Okay. All right, let's keep going. So lysosomes. Lysosome is kind of the garbage man of the cell. And so what's going to happen is it's going to digest and clean up / recycle things inside the cell. So if you got to get rid of it, lysosome's the way to go, because the structure of it is it's going to have digestive enzymes to break things up. So these lysosomes right here are going to our food particles, okay, and they're going to break things down. Or broken organelles. So organelles that you need to get rid of because they broke apart. They're not working anymore. The lysosome is going to get rid of them, all right, and clean things up and recycle them. And then when they digest food, we'll bring the nutrient where it needs to go. Whereas if we got to get rid of something, we'll remove it from the cell entirely. Okay, cell power. We need power. This is going to be through cellular respiration. All right, so we need energy in order to keep ourselves going. So transform energy all the time at every moment of the day. That's going to be our resting metabolism and how much energy we need to survive. Okay, so we got to take in food. Then we need oxygen as well. By doing that, we're going to have glucose. Glucose plus oxygen gives us the ability to make ATP through cellular respiration. And then we need that ATP so that our cells can do all this work. We can build our cell membrane and cytoplasm, have lysosomes move around, vacuoles and vesicles move around, and the mitochondria is going to do this. All right. So these parts of the cell are going to help us get the food that we need. So we have our equation for cellular respiration. All this takes place inside the mitochondria. Okay, the mitochondria, its function is to transform energy through cellular respiration. Okay, the structure, it has two membranes because it wants to have as much surface area as possible in order to make sure that we get as much room as possible for ATP to be produced. Okay, that's why it has all these little wrinkled membrane in the inside. Okay, plants transform energy too. They also have mitochondria. Plants have mitochondria. You can see it right there. Okay, but the plants, what animals don't have is chloroplasts that make energy from sunlight. Okay, so they make sugar from sunlight in the chloroplasts. They're right here. Okay, so sunlight plus CO2 is going to be able to make stuff for us. Okay, chloroplasts, they contain chlorophyll. That's the green pigment. That's why they look green. And it allows them to undergo photosynthesis, which is going to trap the radiant energy from the sun in order to put that into the glucose that it makes so that we can eat that glucose and then use it later. All right, so mitochondria are in both. Chloroplasts are only in plant cells. Okay, ribosomes. Ribosomes are really cool because they're the factory for making proteins. They build a bunch of proteins so that proteins can go and do things inside our bodies. All right, the structure, they're just these little dots all over the place. They can be on the rough endoplasmic reticulum, or they can just be free floating in the cytoplasm. Okay, they can just be anywhere inside the cell, just free floating. So cells need workers. The workers are going to be those proteins. All right, like we said, they do absolutely everything. DNA is going to come out of the nucleus, be sent to the is going to send a message to the ribosomes, and then they're going to build proteins. And these proteins eventually are going to be able to help our cell operate. All right. So like we said, DNA tells us what proteins to make. And then the proteins, become all these different cells. Okay. They do the enzymes, they signal, their receptors. Okay. Proteins are super, super, super important. Okay. Endoplasmic reticulum. All right. It helps transport these proteins to go where they need to go because you do have ribosomes built into the endoplasmic reticulum. All right. This also makes membranes. Okay. The structure. Okay. The rough ER has ribosomes attached to it. That's why it's rough because it's got those little circles on it. Whereas a smooth ER doesn't have ribosomes, and that's actually going to be making lipids for membranes. Okay. So we're making membranes with this, and we're also transporting proteins around. Okay. The Golgi apparatus. All right. Let me move my picture again. Come on. There we go. Okay, the function. It's going to package, sort, and label things. So it's kind of like the UPS of the cells. Okay, it's going to make proteins. It's going to make sure they're all ready to go, and it's going to send them where they need to go, whether it be out of the cell or whether it be to a specific organelle. Okay, and it's going to just make sure everything runs smoothly. Okay, so the structure, it has a membrane where all the magic happens, and then it creates a lot of these carrying proteins called vesicles, like we talked about already, that are going to carry the proteins where they need to go. Okay. Let's keep on going. So we got nucleus, DNA. The ribosomes are going to make proteins. Okay. And then the proteins get shipped to the Golgi apparatus to be completely finished. And once they're finished, now they can send it out of the cell or wherever it needs to go. Okay. Cells need to make more cells. Okay. So in order to do this, they need to reproduce and they need to split. So we need to replace, repair, and grow. All right. So the nucleus and the centrioles are going to do this. So our centrioles are basically like these little magnets that are going to pull our cell apart. Okay. So they go to each end of the cell. After we get done copying everything, we got to pull them apart, pull our DNA apart, pull everything apart from the cell. And then we can have two cells that are identical. Okay. So this is kind of the overview of our entire outlook here. We got our cytoplasm, which is the jelly-like thing. Lysosomes are like the garbage men. Nucleus contains DNA. Ribosomes build things. Golgi apparatus is like the UPS. It stores and packages stuff. ER is going to make membranes. It's also going to help finish proteins. Cell membrane is going to keep things in and out of the cell. Mitochondria is going to be our energy source. Centrioles are going to pull our cell apart when it's time to make a new one. And then vacuoles and vesicles are going to hold things for us, and they're also going to transport things around the cell. Okay. Do we have any more slides? Yep. So the plant cell, the only things that we add are these chloroplasts that make all plants green. Then we also make the central vacuole or the large water vacuole. Okay, which is going to hold all the water in the plant because plants need water. And then lastly, we're going to have our cell wall on the outside, which is going to provide structure and support for the cell. Okay, so make sure, what do cells do? They make energy, they make proteins, and they make more cells. Okay, so after this, you should be able to point out all the different organelles, understand what do they look like, and what exactly do they do. All right. I think it'd be very valuable for you to write this on a separate sheet of paper and kind of use this slide or this slide just to make sure you understand, okay, what's going on when we talk about ribosomes? Oh, they're the protein factories. Okay, what are we talking about with the nucleus? Okay, go back and review and make sure you understand all these different pieces. All right, guys, that's all I got for you. I'll catch you later and have a great day. Peace.